Okay, to connect the non-ADB setup, we plug the NeXT mouse into the NeXT keyboard. Plugs in right here with the logo up, facing up. The NeXT keyboard plugs into the back of the NeXT sound box. And then our custom Y cable, the DB19 connector, plugs in here on the sound box. And then on the VGA connector on the Dell, and on the DB19 connector on the back of the NeXT. I have the SCSI 2 cable connected to the CD-ROM drive, so it's SCSI 2 to SCSI 1, and the power is on the CD-ROM drive. We'll go ahead and put that CD in, and the floppy is on the side of the NeXT. It'll take a 144 or a 288 floppy. You can go ahead and put that in if you have a floppy disk. And then we just simply hit the power button. Now, because we had just replaced that BIOS battery, what's going to happen is it's going to go to testing system to loading from disk. Or actually, it's going to go to testing system to looking for network. So when it does that, when it changes on screen, we'll want to hit the command and the tilde key, and this will bring us to a NeXT prompt. And what we're going to want to do, by default, whenever you replace a BIOS battery, NeXT will default boot back to try and look for a network. So we need to change it back to booting from a SCSI disk. And we've installed that 4 gig SCSI hard drive and 128 megs of RAM. So when it says loading from network, we hit the command key and the tilde key, which is above the 7. So that's tilde above the 7, and it brings us to a NeXT prompt on screen. Now you can see that it has 128 megs of RAM, and this is a 68040 33 megahertz processor. I'm going to type in P for parameters, and see how it says boot command EN question mark. We want to change that to SD, and that changes it to boot from SCSI. We'll default through most of the other questions. I like to change it to verbose test mode yes, because that gives me an idea what's going on in the background. So we just type a Y for yes, and if we leave everything else alone, we should be okay. Go ahead back down to a NeXT prompt. You can check your memories configured properly by typing M for memory, and it shows that we have 32 megs of parity mode sims in each of the 4 banks, or the 4 sockets. So that shows 128 meg total. We should be in good shape. I'm going to try and type reboot here and see if it reboots. If it doesn't work in a second, I'll just power off, power back up, which I think may actually be a little quicker. We're going to go ahead and hit the power key. Do you really want to power down? Click Y for yes. And what that's going to do, it's going to eject our floppy, power it down. We're going to go ahead and power it back up, the power key. And now, when it starts up, it's going to go testing system, and then it's going to kick into verbose mode, which is really kind of nice because it'll show you all the drivers being loaded. You know, all the internal components on the NeXT. It's a pretty neat system, years ahead of its time. It had built-in Ethernet as well as DSP quality sound. You know, so it was studio quality sound, all integrated into a slab, and this is before laptops. So this is kind of like, you know, this desktop would have actually been the first, really almost a laptop if you think about it. Except the monitor was, it's a Sony 17-inch monitor. I have it hooked up to a flat panel, which is kind of nice. Some of the older monitors are going dim, so this gives us an out. But they're really cool, the original monitors, and I'm going to show that setup here next. But I just thought we would boot through to the operating system. This screen is a little clearer, so I can kind of show you a few of the basics with NeXT. Now, it found the drive there. It also found the NEC CD-ROM drive, which is good, and the Seagate drive. So this NEC drive is actually set to 0. Wouldn't be a live demo unless something's haywire. So I want to set it to a SCSI ID higher than 0. So I'm going to go back here, and this click button, if it is set, should take it up to a higher setting. So I'm going to have to go ahead and reboot and probably start, we'll make the next video starting from here.